and welcome back to the Dandelion Diaries. We have another ink exploration today. It is going to be between teal inks or turquoise inks, and there actually is a slight difference. I had to Google it because I wasn't really sure, but teal inks are supposedly darker, more bluish, like blue lagoon colors, and then turquoise typically are lighter, more skyish colors. So we're going to try to separate them on each page. As for materials today, I have my 𝗦𝗃𝗵𝗁 notebook here, which has the Tomoe River paper. I am going to be using the 𝗂𝗃𝗵𝗁 brass dip pen today with the Sakura wood holder that I got from Galen Leather. I do have a 5% off if you're interested in the description. I'm going to be using my condiment cup, which was inspired by Leanne Likes. I have a little eyedropper here, my old t-shirt that I've been using as a towel, and then a jar of water. I will be doing 12 samples today. 12, I know, a lot. And I do have full bottles in some of these, but for ease of use, I'm just going to be using the sample vials that I still am using up before I open up those full bottles. But to get started, we are going to do probably my favorite ink. This one, the second I swatched it, I had to get a full bottle of it. And this is Ferris Wheel Press Edwards Gardens. And it is a shimmer ink, and I think it's the only shimmer I have, which is funny that we're doing it first. But it is just too gorgeous, and you'll see what I mean as it dries on the page. It starts off one color and then it shades, or not really shades, it sheens and then has this gold shimmer in it, and it is super pretty. I really, really do love this ink quite a lot. And actually, there's a funny story behind this one. After I swatched this one, I showed my boyfriend, and he loved it so much that we got him a full bottle. This ink, honestly, is just quite stunningly dark. I wasn't expecting it to be as dark as it was when I first swatched it, but when it dries, it lightens just a little bit, and then it has, like I said, that red sheen with a gold shimmer to it, and it is just magical to look at. I really, really do enjoy this ink, and as someone else has commented on one of my videos, if you like the color but you don't want the shimmer, you can just not shake the bottle and you'll get the same color without the shimmer particles. And I think that is a really good piece of advice. And so we're going to let it live on in another video. The next sample I have here is Herbin Bleu Calanque, or Bleu Calanque. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. My French is absolutely horrific, so please educate me in the comments. But this I wasn't considering as a teal when I first watched it. I really thought it was more of like a cerulean blue color, but after it dries down, it really is, it's like a teal. It really is. It's like a dark greenish blue. It is a little bit more blue leaning than green, but it's beautiful. And I think that Herbin inks are very well known to be great, honestly. They are a little dry in some cases, but they do behave really well in most pens and just are known for their quality. There is a separate line of the Herbin inks, and it is the Jacques Herbin, and I believe those are the more expensive quality line, but every single one I've tried, whether it's Jacques Herbin or Herbin, all seem to do very, very well. When I look at this color, I definitely see it as more of like an ocean blue, almost like a blue teal. I know I recently have done my bright blue videos and my light blue, but this one I felt was too medium to include in either of those. And as I said, it's a little bit more green leaning, so I wanted to include it in my teal bunch. The next sample we have is probably a favorite among many. It is Henry David Thoreau Walden by Organic Studio. And it is a very high sheening ink. So for those that are not a fan of big sheeners, this is definitely a very high sheen ink. And I do have a full bottle of this one just because I love the color so much. And I'm not afraid of the sheen. I think it looks really cool when the whole page just reflects back at me, like when I'm journaling. And I really do enjoy having the more interesting inks, not just in swatches, but also in writing samples. So it adds more character to my journals, and I can see like what I was into at the time and what I was going for. But Walden Pond, I think it's Walden Pond is the full name, but it is definitely a dark teal color, almost green, like nighttime swampy teal, I don't know. But I really love the way this ink looks after it has sheened because of the teal and the red together. It looks really, really nice. The next sample I have is Van Diemen's Underwater Sea Turtle. And again, this is a sheening ink, and it is absolutely stunning. The base color of this is almost bright green, but it's still teal. It's definitely a sea color, like seawater, but it is so beautiful. And you'll see what I mean when it dries down about the sheen. It's very much like the Walden Pond in that it has a high sheen, but the color contrast between the two is stunning. I don't have a lot of Van Diemen ink. I haven't been experienced in it, so I don't really know how majority of them behave. But as for this one, I really like how it looks, again, in a journal page with that dark greenish teal underneath with the red sheen on top. It looks very, very nice. Moving on into one of my more recent purchases, Goulet Pens had a 25% off on their samples, and I managed to snag a few of the Monteverde inks because I am really interested in trying more of them. This is Monteverde California Teal, and I was stunned after swatching this one. It was so beautiful. Again, I mean, I'm going to say about all of the inks that they're beautiful, but this one is... It really embodies California for me. It is that California vibe, that kind of like oceanic, bluish green, almost aqua with the red sheen. It's very cool. And the red sheen is very minimal. It's not super crazy sheen or anything, but the color of this is really pretty, and I wanted to include it for sure. I honestly really enjoy the Monteverde inks just for the price point and the wetness of the inks. And I feel like every time I use them, they write really well, even in super fine writing pens. Like currently, I actually have this inked, not this specific one, but I have another Monteverde ink in my June currently inked, jeez. And it is the Monteverde Olivine, and it is a gorgeous, like, straight olive color, and it worked very well in one of my drier writers, which is my Sailor Compass in the medium fine, and it did very well. So I like how the Monteverde inks behave for sure. And then moving on into our last real teal ink is going to be Inkebara's Green Lagoon. And this one is really pretty too. It's like some of the others where it has that kind of green blue color, right? It's a teal, but it's a little bit more, I don't know, standard to me. It doesn't have anything crazy going on with it. It's just a beautiful color. And I only have been able to find the Inkebara inks actually at Vaness, and this is a sample from Vaness. And I would love to know if there's any other places that I could find these inks because they're really interesting the way they behave on the paper and write just because of their, I don't know, their ink properties. I will say out of all of the quote-unquote teal inks, the Inkebara Green Lagoon is a little bit more turquoise to me just because it is a little bit lighter. But when it dries, it has a different kind of shade to it. So it's more teal, I guess, but you let me know what you think in the comments. Is it turquoise or is it teal? Moving on into the more turquoise side of things, I have one ink here by Ferris Wheel Press, and this one is Morningside Mint. And it is in one of their little vials that you get from their ink charger sets. I have only one complaint with these, is that, two right now, is they're really hard to open. And number two, the neck of this is so incredibly tiny, I can't fit anything in it. So you'll see when I get the dropper in, I can barely fit this in here. And it's just kind of a pain, if I'm being honest. So I haven't, like, the ones I've used in pens, I've had to dump into an inkwell or even another sample vial, like an empty one, just to be able to fill up my pens. So if you're going to be purchasing the ink chargers, just be aware of the very skinny necks that they have, and they will not work well with every kind of pen. But this color is what I imagine like mint ice cream to look like in an ink color. And since the ink file neck is so small, I feel like I didn't even get enough ink on my dip pen here. I'm really struggling to get it to write. I did end up just kind of like rolling it in the ink that was still pooling on the page just to help it write a little bit more. Like I said, those ink file necks are so tiny, and it really does kind of hurt the usability of the ink. The next ink I have is one from the Sailor Manyo line, and this is Koke, and it is a little bit more blue than it should be turquoise, but as you well know from some of my other videos, the Manyo line does a lot of chroma shading, and Koke is one of the chroma shaders. So it actually has almost a teal to pink to purple color to it, and you'll see as it dries down, it becomes very, very interesting, and it's not just your standard ink anymore. So as I said, it starts off as like a blue color, and then when it dries, it's not the same color anymore. Moving on to our next sample, we have 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 Mint Turquoise. And this was another one of the ones I picked up at the 25% off Goulet pens. And I really like this color. It's kind of what turquoise actually looks like to me, like the rock itself, like the gemstone, or I don't know if it's a gemstone, but I think it's a gemstone. But turquoise, the actual rock itself, looks like this color to me. And this is one of 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏's standard inks. It doesn't have the document properties or anything like that. So it is pretty wet, I would say, especially with writing. But I have never had any problems with the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 inks in my pens. If anything, I actually am a huge fan of the brand, and I think they do a very nice job with making their inks juicy, which works well in any pen, especially your dry ones. I've saved several of my 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏s with really wet ink, and 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 is one of the brands I typically go for. The next sample I have, this one's maybe more teal, but you guys let me know. This is Kobe number 13 𝗦𝗃𝗽𝗍𝗍 Emerald. And in the vial, it looks very blue, but on the page, it's more teal, more turquoise. It's a little bit darker than what I would consider a turquoise, but I wasn't sure, so I put it more towards the turquoise side. But like I said, you guys let me know what you think in the comments, because this is an exploration or an inksploration, and we need to figure this out. The next sample I have is about probably every video. I think I've included one of their inks, and that is Pilot Iroshizuku Suigyoku, and this one is stunning. I mean, I love all of the Pilot Iroshizuku inks, and I think I've said that in every video too, but they're so good. Like, the quality, the writing experience, the minimalist beauty of them, they really just are quality in a bottle. And I was going to use Pilot Iroshizuku Kujaku for this, but I actually can't find my sample, so we went the next best. But if you have Kujaku, this would be probably another really good one to include for the turquoise and teal inks. Again, this one may not be considered more turquoise. It may be more teal after swatching it and looking at it on the page, but I still really love this ink, and I want to include it because it is so beautiful, and we love all of the Iroshizuku inks. And the last sample that I have is another Ferris Wheel Press. They did a lot of teal inks, I'm not gonna lie. And that is Ferris Wheel Press Mirror of Moraine. And the first sample I got of this was actually in the ink charger set, and it broke in transit. It was my very first ink that broke in transit, and I was so bummed because the mess that it made looked so beautiful, and I was really bummed that I didn't get to try out the beautiful teal turquoise ink that this is. So I ended up ordering another sample because I had to try it. It was too pretty not to try. And I'm so glad I did, because it is perfect for this ink exploration, and it is gorgeous on the page. All right, so we've made it through all of the samples, and if you've made it this far, you'll get to realize that I made a mistake in the beginning of the video, and I have another ink, and that is Robert Oster's River of Fire. This is probably my favorite teal ink that I've ever owned. It is so fun to write with. It's a little bit dark and teal, like dark turquoise teal, I don't know, but it is so beautiful, and I love writing with this in a journal. It's like staring at the deep ocean on a page. It is very pretty, and it does have a minor red sheen to it, which I think is why I love it so much. Again, I'm really a fan of the sheen, and this one is just, it's rich, it's beautiful, and Robert Oster has so many different colors to choose from, and this one was one I couldn't pass up. All right, so this is all of the inks we have swatched here. I'm going to let them dry down on the page, and then I will come back and show you guys the close-ups as per our usual routine. So I will see you in a minute. Okay, it is now dried down. I do apologize if you can hear Hades in the background. He is in a timeout, so he's crying a lot. Hades is our new kitten, by the way, in case you didn't know. So I'm going to zoom you guys in, and we're going to go over these bad boys. So starting off with number 1 here being Ferris Wheel Press Edwards Gardens. Like I said, just look at that swatch. It's got that red sheen, gold shimmer. It is gorgeous, and writing with this color is so nice. I like it with the shimmer, but I guess if you didn't like it, like I said, you could always ink up your pen without shaking it, or ink up the pen without shaking the bottle, yeah, and get the color without the shimmer. Then we had Herbin Bleu Calanque, and this is gorgeous. It's this moody ocean color, and it's actually very similar to one I have on the right page here, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but it is just your standard kind of tealy blue ink, and I really love the way this shades. It looks very, very nice. Then we have the Walden Pond Henry David Thoreau by Organic Studio. Like I said, that sheen is so high, and it's on every single letter of the written words. It is incredibly high sheen. And its neighbor, Van Diemen's Underwater Sea Turtle, is the exact same, super high sheen, but the base color is much darker in a green color versus the turquoise. Then we had Monteverde's California Teal, and this one, it looks a little bit more green on camera, but I promise it is definitely more of a teal color, and it does have that mild red sheen and is absolutely gorgeous. Moving on to Inkebara's Green Lagoon. This one actually turned out a little bit more turquoise than teal, but the shade on this is so cool. It's almost like a green, like a light green shade to the turquoise base color. It looks very nice, and it's also very similar to another one on the other side of the page. We then had Ferris Wheel Press Morningside Mint. This ink is very light, I will say that, so if you struggle with light inks, this may do better in like a broader nib, but it is beautiful. It shades almost to this creamy color, and again, Ferris Wheel Press has so many colors that are just stunning. And then we have Sailor Manyo Koke, and this did not swatch the way it has swatched for me every time before, so it looks way more blue than it actually is. But if you might be able to tell on camera, it does have the green teal color shade in here, and the outer rim of this is definitely a dark teal color. So the camera may not show it, but it is more of a teal chroma shade than turquoise, I guess. Then we had the 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 Mint Turquoise. I still think this looks like mint ice cream melted onto my page, and it is so juicy. Look at how bold those letters wrote because of how wet those inks write. Then we had Kobe 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 this is the one that I thought was more similar to the Herbin Bleu Calanque in that it is almost a blue, but still leaning a little bit teal, but it is very, very pretty. Then we had Pilot Iroshizuku Sui oh my gosh, 𝗂𝘃. Again, I'm going to butcher this, but it is a very pretty ink. There is no sheen actually, which usually has a little bit of a red sheen to it when I've swatched it before, so maybe this sample is getting a little tired of me, I don't know. but it usually has a little bit of a red sheen, and again, that shade on it is stunning, and we love the Pilot Iroshizuku inks. Then we did Ferris Wheel Press Mirror of Moraine, that standard Lagoon color, and this one is a dupe, honestly. It is so close to Inkebara's Green Lagoon. I'm not kidding. It is basically the same color. It has that same kind of green shade to it. It is, yeah, I'm going to stop doing that so we don't get sick on camera, but it is so close to the other one, but it is still a very beautiful ink. So if you couldn't get one or the other, I mean, they're pretty much the same. And then my love, Robert Oster River of Fire. I love this bottle of ink so much. You can see that mild red sheen kind of pick up there, and it is just such a dark, moody teal color. I love journaling with this. It really is like the depths of the ocean on the page. It is stunning. All right, so that is it for our teal and turquoise ink exploration. If you're interested in any of the other ink explorations I've done, I will leave it in the description below as well in the cards. Let me know which one was your favorite. There are so many to choose from this time. I'm so proud I got 13 on 2 pages. That's pretty impressive for me. But let me know what you think. If you're interested in more content from me as well, I do have an Instagram, and I will leave that handle on the screen. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching, so much for your support, and I'm super excited to continue these until I reach the end of the rainbow. So again, thanks, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.